He kissed me in the dark. The university library had always been my sanctuary, but never more than during finals week, while other students crammed into coffee shops or study groups. I preferred the hushed silence of the fourth floor, where the oldest books lived and hardly anyone ventured after 8 p.m. That's where I first really noticed him. I'd seen Ethan Marsh around campus before everyone had. He was the kind of guy who seemed to exist in a different atmosphere than the rest of us. Captain of the swim team, pre-med student with a 4.0 GPA, and possessed of the kind of effortless charm that made professors and students alike gravitate toward him. His dark hair was always slightly damp from practice, and he had this habit of running his fingers through it when he was thinking, leaving it charmingly disheveled. We'd never spoken. Why would we? I was Julian Hayes, a quiet English literature major who spent more time with fictional characters than real people. My social circle consisted of exactly 3 friends, all as introverted as I was. I wore oversized sweaters, nursed the same cup of tea for hours, and had mastered the art of becoming invisible in crowded rooms. But that Tuesday night in December, something shifted. I was tucked into my usual corner, surrounded by a fortress of books on Victorian poetry, when I heard footsteps on the creaky wooden floor. I looked up, expecting to see the elderly librarian making her rounds, but instead found myself staring directly at Ethan Marsh. He stood in the aisle, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. His athletic bag was slung over one shoulder, and he was holding a worn copy of Gray's Anatomy, the medical text, not the TV show. For a moment, our eyes met, and I felt something flutter in my chest. Is anyone sitting here? He asked, gesturing to the chair across from me. I blinked, momentarily convinced I was hallucinating from too much caffeine and too little sleep. No, it's free. He smiled, a genuine, warm smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes and set his bag down. Thanks, the lower floors are packed, and I need actual quiet to get through this chapter. Anatomy? I asked, then immediately felt stupid for stating the obvious. Yeah. Neurology unit. It's brutal. He sat down and opened the massive textbook. I'm Ethan. By the way, Julian. My voice came out softer than I intended. Nice to meet you. Julian. He said my name like he was testing how it felt in his mouth, and I had to look down at my own book before he could see the blush creeping up my neck. For the next 2 hours, we sat in companionable silence. I tried to focus on Tennyson's In Memoriam, but I was acutely aware of every movement Ethan made, the way he chewed on his pen when he was concentrating, how he'd occasionally stretch his arms above his head, revealing a sliver of toned stomach when his shirt rode up, the soft sighs he made when encountering a particularly difficult passage. Around 10 p.m., the overhead lights flickered the library's 15-minute warning before closing. Ethan looked up, surprised. Has it been 2 hours already? He started packing his things. I actually got a ton done. Usually I can't focus in study spaces, but this was nice. Yeah, I agreed. Gathering my own materials. It was. We walked toward the elevator together, our footsteps echoing in the now empty floor. As we waited for the elevator to arrive, Ethan turned to me. Hey, would you maybe want to study together again? I mean, if you're here tomorrow night. No pressure. My heart did something complicated in my chest. I'll be here. Same spot. Cool. That smile again. See you tomorrow, Julian. The elevator doors closed between us, and I stood there for a moment, processing what had just happened. Ethan Marsh wanted to study with me. It probably meant nothing, just a convenient, quiet study partner. But as I walked back to my dorm through the cold December night, I couldn't stop smiling. Chapter 2. Coffee and conversation. Ethan was already there when I arrived at the library. The next night, he claimed our corner and even saved my seat, his jacket draped over the back of the chair. When he saw me, his face lit up in a way that made my stomach flip. Hey, I brought coffee. He pushed a paper cup toward me. I didn't know how you take it, so I got it plain. There's sugar and cream here if you want. I stared at the cup, touched by the simple gesture. Thank you. This is really nice. No problem. He opened his anatomy textbook again. Fair warning, I might need to quiz myself out loud later. Memorizing nerve pathways is impossible for me without talking through it. That's fine. I can help if you want. I'm good at memorization. His eyebrows rose. Yeah? That would actually be amazing. We fell into a rhythm over the next week. Every night at 8, we'd meet at our corner. Ethan would bring coffee he'd learned by the third night that I liked mine with cream and 1 sugar. I'd bring snacks, usually the homemade cookies my roommate Sarah Stress baked during finals. We started talking more during breaks. I learned that Ethan was the oldest of 4 siblings, that he'd gotten into swimming because of a childhood fear of water. That he was terrified of disappointing his parents who'd both been doctors. He learned that I'd lost my father when I was 12. That I wanted to be a writer, but was too scared to show anyone my work. That I'd read The Lord of the Rings 17 times. 17? Ethan laughed. Not mockingly, but with genuine amusement. That's dedication. It's comfort reading, I explained. Feeling defensive, but also pleased that he cared enough to ask. Every time I read it, I notice something new. And Tolkien's use of language is just beautiful. Read me something, Ethan said suddenly. I blinked. What? Something you think is beautiful? From whatever you're reading now. I hesitated, then picked up my worn copy of Tennyson. Okay, but don't laugh. This is from In Memoriam. It's about losing someone you love. I won't laugh, he promised. And something in his voice made me believe him. I read, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all." The words hung in the air between us. When I looked up, Ethan was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read, something soft and vulnerable. That made my breath catch. That's beautiful, he said quietly. Sad, but beautiful. Do you believe it? I don't know yet, I admitted. I think you have to have really loved someone to know if losing them was worth it. Ethan nodded slowly, still holding my gaze. Yeah, I think you're right. The moment stretched between us, charged with something I was afraid to name. Then the lights flickered, and we both jumped, laughing nervously as we packed up that night. Ethan seemed hesitant. Hey, finals are done Friday. A bunch of us are going to Marco's Pizza to celebrate. Do you want to come? You could bring your friends. The invitation surprised me. Ethan's social circle and mine didn't overlap at all. I don't know. Come on, it'll be fun. And he paused, running his hand through his hair in that way he did when he was nervous. I'd really like you to be there. How could I say no to that? Okay, yeah, I'll come. His smile could have powered the entire library. Awesome. I'll text you the details. We exchanged numbers. And as I walked home that night, I let myself wonder, just for a moment, if maybe this was becoming something more than just studying together. Chapter 3. The party Marco's Pizza was packed with celebrating students when Sarah, my roommate, and I arrived on Friday night. The air was thick with the smell of pepperoni and the sound of laughter and terrible pop music. I immediately felt overwhelmed. We can leave whenever you want, Sarah said, reading my expression. She knew me well enough to recognize my panic face. No, it's fine. I promised Ethan I'd come. She raised an eyebrow. Ethan, the swim team guy you've been studying with. The one you won't shut up about. I don't talk about him that much, Julian. You mentioned him 4 times yesterday while brushing your teeth, before I could defend myself. I heard my name being called. Ethan was waving from a large table in the back, surrounded by people I vaguely recognized from around campus. He was wearing a dark green sweater that made his eyes look impossibly bright, and his smile when he saw me was so genuine that my anxiety eased slightly. You made it. He stood up as we approached, and to my surprise, he pulled me into a quick hug. He smelled like chlorine and cedar, and I had to resist the urge to lean into him. Everyone, this is Julian and I'm sorry. I don't think we've met. Sarah, my roommate, supplied, shaking his hand with a knowing look that I hoped Ethan didn't catch. He introduced us to the group, Marcus and Devin from the swim team, Claire from his anatomy class, and a few others whose names I immediately forgot. They all seemed friendly enough, but I felt out of place, like I'd wandered into someone else's life. Ethan must have sensed my discomfort because he leaned close and whispered, "Want to grab drinks? I need to escape Marcus's story about his biology final. I've heard it 3 times already." I nodded gratefully, and we made our way to the drink station. "Thanks for coming," Ethan said as he poured us both sodas. "I know this probably isn't your scene." "It's not so bad," I lied. He laughed. "You're a terrible liar, Julian, but I appreciate the effort." We stood there for a moment, slightly apart from the chaos of the party. Someone had started a debate about whether the final exam in organic chemistry had been fair, and the noise level had risen accordingly. "Can I tell you something?" Ethan asked suddenly, his voice lower, more serious. "Of course, these last couple weeks, studying with you, it's been the best part of my semester, maybe my whole year." He wasn't looking at me, instead focusing intently on his drink. "Everyone always wants something from me, you know? Like, they want me to help with their homework or get them into parties or set them up with my teammates. But you just wanted to study, to talk about books and poetry and whether hobbits could technically swim." I remembered that conversation, a silly debate we'd had during a study break. "They could probably doggy paddle." He laughed, and when he looked at me, his eyes were warm. "See, this is what I mean. You make everything feel easier. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. You make things easier for me too, I admitted. I'm not good at people, but with you, it doesn't feel so hard. Hey Ethan, stop hogging the new guy and get back here. Marcus called out. We need you to settle an argument. Ethan rolled his eyes but smiled. Duty calls. Come on, I'll protect you from Marcus's terrible opinions. The rest of the evening was actually fun. Ethan stayed close to me, always making sure I was included in conversations, explaining inside jokes, and gently steering topics toward things I could contribute to. When someone started discussing the latest literary fiction bestseller, Ethan's face lit up as he turned to me. Julian's the expert here. He's read everything. Suddenly I had for people asking for book recommendations, and I found myself relaxing into the conversation. Sarah caught my eye from across the table and gave me a subtle thumbs up. Around 11, people started leaving. Sarah had already gone home with Claire, who apparently lived in her building, and I was getting ready to call it a night when Ethan touched my arm. Hey, want to take a walk? I'm not ready for this night to end yet. The December air was sharp and cold, our breath-forming clouds in the darkness. The campus was quiet, most students either at parties or already crashed from finals exhaustion. We walked without a specific destination, our shoulders occasionally bumping together. Thanks for including me tonight, I said. Your friends are nice. They liked you. Marcus told me you were refreshingly weird. That's a compliment coming from him. I laughed. I'll take it. We ended up at the campus fountain, which had been drained for winter. We sat on the cold stone edge, and Ethan pulled out his phone to show me photos of his siblings. His little sister had just gotten the lead in her school play, and his pride was evident in every word. Do you think you'll go home for winter break? I asked. Yeah, my mom would kill me if I didn't. What about you? I'll probably stay here. My mom's working through the holidays, and it's just the two of us. Easier for me to stay. Ethan frowned. You'll be alone for Christmas? I'm used to it, and I like the quiet. He trailed off, and I could see him thinking. What if you came home with me? I stared at him. What? Come home with me for Christmas? My family's chaotic and loud, and my grandmother will definitely try to feed you until you explode. But I don't like the idea of you being alone. He was looking at me with such earnest concern that I felt something crack open in my chest. Ethan, that's really sweet, but I can't just invite myself to your family Christmas. You're not inviting yourself. I'm inviting you. And I'm not taking no for an answer. He bumped his shoulder against mine. Besides, my little brother is obsessed with Lord of the Rings. You two would get along great. I wanted to say yes more than I'd wanted anything in a long time. Are you sure? Completely sure. He smiled, and in the lamplight, he looked almost ethereal. Say yes, Julian. Yes, I whispered. We sat there for a while longer, talking about nothing and everything, and when Ethan finally walked me back to my dorm, I couldn't stop smiling. See you tomorrow, he asked at my door. For studying? No, we're done with finals. I was thinking we could just hang out. Maybe I could show you my favorite coffee shop. They have the best cinnamon rolls. That sounds perfect. He reached out and squeezed my hand. Just for a moment. Good night, Julian. Good night, Ethan. I watched him walk away, and even after he'd disappeared around the corner, I stood there, my hand tingling where he'd touched it, wondering if maybe, possibly, he felt this thing between us two. #. Chapter 4. The Coffee Shop. Ethan loved was a tiny place called The Spill, tucked between a vintage bookstore and a thrift shop on the artsy side of town. I'd walked past it 100 times but never gone in. It was exactly the kind of place I would have loved if I'd known about it. Mismatched furniture, walls covered in local art, and the rich smell of fresh coffee that wrapped around you like a hug the moment you entered. This place is perfect, I said as we settled into a worn velvet couch near the window. Right? I found it freshman year when I was having a crisis about whether I actually wanted to be a doctor. Ethan stretched his long legs out, accidentally brushing against mine. He didn't move away. The owner, Rita, talked me through it. She has this way of asking exactly the right questions. A woman with silver hair and kind eyes approached our table with 2 enormous cinnamon rolls. Ethan, I haven't seen you in weeks. Finals, you know it. Rita, this is Julian. Julian, this is Rita, the best therapist who isn't actually a therapist. Rita laughed and shook my hand. Any friend of Ethan's is welcome here. These are on the house. You both look like you need sugar. After she left, I took a bite of the cinnamon roll and actually moaned. It was still warm, the frosting melting into gooey perfection. Oh my God. I know, Ethan said, grinning at my reaction. Life-changing, right? We devoured our cinnamon rolls in comfortable silence. And then Ethan surprised me by pulling out a notebook. So, I have a confession, he said, looking almost shy. You know how you said you write, but never show anyone? I tensed immediately. Yeah? I'd really like to read something of yours, if you're willing to share. My first instinct was to refuse. I'd never show my writing to anyone except Sarah, who'd stumbled upon my notebook by accident and sworn she'd never tell anyone. But Ethan was looking at me with such genuine interest, no judgment or pressure, just curiosity. Why? I asked. Because you light up when you talk about books and stories. Because I think you have something important to say. And honestly, because I want to know you better. And I feel like your writing would show me parts of you that you're too shy to share out loud. His honesty disarmed me completely. I don't have anything with me, next time then. No pressure. He smiled and changed the subject smoothly. So, I've been thinking about the Christmas thing. We'd leave next Friday and come back after New Year's. Is that too long? Won't your family think it's weird that you're bringing a random friend home? Ethan fiddled with his coffee cup. I told them about you. My mom's excited to meet you. You told your family about me. My voice came out higher than normal. Double quotes, yeah. I talk about you a lot, actually. He said it casually. But there was something underneath his words, something that made my pulse quicken. My little sister thinks we're dating. The word hung in the air between us, dating. My mouth went dry. What did you tell her? I barely recognized my own voice. Ethan looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that made it hard to breathe. I told her we were friends. Because we are, right? The question felt loaded, like he was asking something else entirely. Right, I said, even though the word felt like a lie. But if he stopped, took a breath. Julian, can I ask you something personal? Okay, are you? Do you like guys? My heart stopped. In all my imagining of how someone might ask me this question, I'd never pictured it like this in a cozy coffee shop, with Ethan watching me with nervous hope in his eyes. Yes, I said simply. Do you? Yes. The relief in his voice was palpable. I haven't really told anyone except my family and close friends. Not because I'm ashamed, just, it's easier to let people assume things sometimes. I get that. I'm not exactly shouting it from rooftops either. We looked at each other, and something fundamental shifted. The possibility that had been hovering between us suddenly felt real, tangible. So, Ethan said slowly, a smile playing at his lips. Now that we've established that, yes? Would you want to go on an actual date with me? Like, officially. Joy bubbled up in my chest. Yes, definitely yes. His smile was blinding. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, good. He was grinning like an idiot, and I was probably matching him. This is really good. Rita appeared with more coffee, took one look at us, and winked. About time, Ethan. He laughed, embarrassed. Is it that obvious? Honey, you've been coming here for 3 years, and I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at this one. She patted my shoulder. You two are adorable. After she left, Ethan reached across the table and took my hand. His palm was warm, slightly calloused from swimming, and the simple touch sent electricity through my entire body. I should tell you something, he said. I've been wanting to ask you out since that first night in the library, but I wasn't sure if you, and I didn't want to make things weird if I was wrong. I've been half in love with you since you brought me coffee the second night, I admitted. Maybe even before that. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. Only half. Well, I'm trying to play it cool. He laughed, and it was the best sound I'd ever heard. How's that working out? Terribly, good. I like you terrible at playing it cool. We stayed at the spill for hours, holding hands across the table, talking about everything and nothing. Ethan told me about coming out to his parents in high school, how scared he'd been and how surprisingly supportive they were. I told him about my dad, about how I'd known I was gay even before I really understood what that meant, about the lonely years of high school, where I'd felt like I was watching life happen to everyone else. You're not watching anymore, Ethan said softly. You're living it, with me. As the afternoon faded into evening, we finally left the spill. Outside, Ethan pulled me into a doorway, away from the foot traffic. Can I kiss you? He asked, and I loved that he asked, that he made sure. Please. He cupped my face in his hands and kissed me softly, tentatively, like I was something precious. It was perfect, sweet, and gentle, and full of promise. When we pulled apart, we were both smiling. I've been wanting to do that for weeks, he whispered. Only weeks. I've been wanting that since the moment you sat down in the library. He kissed me again, longer this time, and I felt myself melting into him. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. Come on, Ethan said, taking my hand. Let me walk you home. And tomorrow, I'm taking you on a proper date. Where are we going? It's a surprise. But bring a warm coat. As we walked through campus holding hands, I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with exactly the right person. Chapter 5. First reeled the teeth and picked me up at 6 p.m. Looking unfairly handsome in a navy pea coat and burgundy scarf. He told me to dress warm and comfortable, which in December meant layers upon layers. You look great, he said, and the way he looked at me made me feel like I actually did. So do you? Are you going to tell me where we're going? Nope. It's a surprise. He took my hand and we started walking. We ended up at the winter market downtown, a seasonal event I'd heard about but never attended. The streets were transformed into a magical wonderland, twinkling lights strung everywhere. Wooden stalls selling everything from handmade jewelry to hot chocolate. The smell of roasted chestnuts and cinnamon in the air. Ice sculptures sparkled under the streetlights. And a quartet was playing Christmas carols on the corner. Oh, this is perfect, I breathed. Ethan beamed. I was hoping you'd like it. Come on, there's so much to see. We wandered through the market, stopping at stalls that caught our interest. Ethan bought us hot apple cider from a vendor with an impressive beard. And we sipped it as we walked, our free hands intertwined. Look at this, I said, stopping at a stall selling old books. I picked up a worn copy of The Picture of Dorian Gray, first edition. This must cost a fortune. Have it? Ethan asked. I have a paperback copy, but this I carefully turned the pages, admiring the beautiful binding. We'll take it, Ethan said to the seller. What? No, Ethan, it's too expensive. It's a first date gift. Let me do this. His voice was soft but firm. The seller wrapped the book carefully, and Ethan insisted on carrying it. I was torn between protesting and being completely touched by the gesture. Thank you, I said finally. This is the most thoughtful gift anyone's ever given me. You're welcome. He squeezed my hand. Besides, I'm hoping this means you'll read to me again. I loved listening to you read Tennyson. We continued through the market, stopping to watch a street performer juggling fire, sharing a bag of roasted chestnuts, and laughing as we tried to ice skate on the small rink set up in the town square. Ethan was graceful on the ice, clearly his swimming coordination translated, while I could barely stand up without clinging to the rail here. Hold on to me, Ethan said, skating backward while holding both my hands. I've got you. If I fall, I'm taking you down with me. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Somehow we made it around the rink twice without falling, mostly because Ethan was basically pulling me along. When we finally got off the ice, my legs were shaking and we were both laughing so hard we could barely breathe. That was humiliating, I said, collapsing onto a bench. That was adorable. Ethan sat beside me, throwing an arm around my shoulders. You should see your concentration face. You stick your tongue out a little bit. I do not. You absolutely do. It's cute. I buried my face in his shoulder, embarrassed but happy. He smelled like cold air and cinnamon, and I wanted to stay in this moment forever. As the evening grew later, the market began to thin out. We found ourselves standing under a massive oak tree wrapped in white lights, slightly apart from the remaining crowds. I need to tell you something, Ethan said, turning to face me. His expression was serious, and my stomach clenched with worry. Okay, today has been one of the best days of my life, and that's because of you. He took both my hands in his. I know we've only been officially doing this for like a day, but Julian, I really like you, more than I've liked anyone in a long time. Maybe ever. I really like you too, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The thing is, winter break is coming up, and we'll be together at my family's place, which is great, but I don't want you to feel pressured. We can just be friends there if that's more comfortable. I don't want to rush anything or... I cut him off by kissing him. I'd never been this bold before, but something about the lights and the cold air and the way he was rambling nervously made me brave. When we pulled apart, Ethan was staring at me with wide eyes. I don't want to just be friends, I said firmly. I like you. I want to see where this goes. And I don't care if your family knows we're dating. Unless you do. No. I don't care. I want them to know. He grinned. My sister's going to be insufferably smug about being right. Let her be smug. He kissed me again. Deeper this time, and I forgot about the cold. Forgot about the people walking past us. Forgot about everything except the feeling of his lips on mine and his arms around me. When we finally headed back toward campus, we were both grinning like idiots. Thank you for tonight, I said as we reached my dorm. This was perfect, yeah? He looked pleased. I was nervous. I've never really done the whole dating thing before. You're doing great. So are you. He hesitated at my door. Can I see you tomorrow? You're seeing me every day until we leave for your parents' place. And then you're stuck with me for 2 weeks. You might get sick of me. Impossible. He kissed me softly. Good night, Julian. Good night. I watched him walk away, clutching my first edition Wild to my chest, and thought that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something extraordinary. Chapter 6. Meeting the Familith drive to Ethan's family home took about 3 hours. His parents lived in a small town outside the city, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and Main Street had exactly 2 traffic lights. Ethan kept up a running commentary as we drove, pointing out landmarks from his childhood: the pool, where he'd first learned to swim, the library where he'd spent entire summers, the ice cream shop where he'd had his first kiss. First kiss? I asked, trying not to sound jealous. Tommy Martinez, 8th grade. Behind the dumpster at the ice cream shop. Very romantic. He laughed. He's married to a woman now and has 3 kids. We're still friends on Facebook. Behind a dumpster. I was 13 and terrified someone would see us. In retrospect, not my smoothest moment. As we pulled into the driveway of a large but cozy-looking house, my nervousness ramped up considerably. Ethan, what if they don't like me? They're going to love you. He squeezed my hand. But fair warning, they're a lot. My mom will try to feed you constantly. My dad will ask you a million questions about your plans for the future. My sister Emma will interrogate you about our relationship status. And my brothers will probably challenge you to a video game tournament. That's terrifying. You'll be fine. I'll be right there. The front door burst open before we even got out of the car, and a blonde girl who looked about 16 came running out. Ethan, you're late? We've been waiting forever. She stopped short when she saw me. Oh my God, is this Julian? He's cute. You didn't tell me he was this cute. Emma, you're being weird. Stop being weird. But Ethan was smiling. Emma ignored him completely and extended her hand to me. Hi, I'm Emma. I've heard so much about you. Are you guys dating yet? Or is Ethan still being a coward, Emma? Ethan's face was red. We're dating, I said, amused despite my nerves. Yes, I knew it. Mom, Dad, they're dating. She yelled this toward the house, and I heard laughter from inside. I'm going to kill her, Ethan muttered, but he was still smiling. His parents appeared in the doorway. His mom was petite with kind eyes and the same dark hair as Ethan, while his dad was tall and broad-shouldered with a friendly face. You must be Julian, his mom said, pulling me into a hug before I could even respond. We're so happy you could come. I'm Caroline, and this is Michael. Please ignore Emma. We're trying to teach her about boundaries. Unsuccessfully, Emma muttered. It's nice to meet you both, I said, trying not to be overwhelmed by the warmth of the welcome. The inside of the house was even cozier than the outside, family photos covering every wall, comfortable furniture that looked actually lived in, and the smell of something delicious baking in the kitchen. 2 boys who looked like younger versions of Ethan appeared from a hallway, curious and friendly. That's Lucas, he's 14, and that's Aiden, he's 11, Ethan introduced. Guys, this is Julian. You like Lord of the Rings? Aiden asked immediately. He's read it 17 times, Ethan supplied, and Aiden's eyes went wide. Can we talk about whether Gandalf could have just had the eagles fly Frodo to Mordor? I laughed. Absolutely. Okay, dinner first, nerd talk later, Caroline said. Ethan, why don't you show Julian where he'll be sleeping? We set up the guest room for him. As Ethan led me upstairs, I felt myself relax slightly. His family was loud and enthusiastic, but in the best way. They felt genuine, like they were actually happy to have me there. Your family is great, I said as Ethan showed me to a comfortable guest room. They like you too. I can tell. He set my bag down. My room's right next door if you need anything. And just, thanks for being here. It means a lot. Dinner was a chaotic, wonderful affair. Caroline had made lasagna, garlic bread, and about 5 different salads. Conversation flowed easily, with everyone talking over each other in a way that somehow worked. Michael asked about my major and career plans, but in a genuinely interested way rather than judgmentally. Emma wanted to know everything about how Ethan and I got together, and Lucas and Aiden debated the merits of various fantasy series. So Julian, Caroline said during a lulling conversation, Ethan tells us you're a writer. I shot Ethan a look, and he gave me an apologetic shrug. I'm trying to be. Mostly I just write for myself. He's really talented, Ethan said. He finally let me read one of his short stories last week. It was beautiful. What kind of things do you write? Michael asked. Usually character-driven literary fiction. A lot of stuff about identity and belonging. Finding your place in the world. I was surprised by how comfortable I felt discussing this with him. We'd love to read something if you're willing to share, Caroline said warmly. Maybe, I said, feeling both terrified and flattered. I'll think about it. After dinner, Aiden dragged me to the living room to discuss Middle-earth geography, while Emma and Ethan did dishes. Lucas challenged me to Mario Kart, which I lost spectacularly but enjoyed anyway. By the time everyone started heading to bed, I felt like I'd known this family for years rather than hours. See? Ethan said as he walked me to my room. I told you they'd love you. They're amazing. Thank you for inviting me. He leaned against my doorframe, looking at me with soft eyes. I'm really glad you're here. He glanced down the hallway, then quickly kissed me. Good night. Good night. I lay in bed that night, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of a house full of people, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, like I belonged somewhere. Chapter 7. Christmas Eve. Next few days passed in a blur of family activities. Caroline taught me how to make her famous sugar cookies, though mine came out looking more like abstract art than the perfect shapes everyone else created. Michael took Ethan and me to his workshop in the garage, showing us the furniture he built as a hobby. Emma recruited me to help her wrap presents, which mostly involved her gossiping about school drama, while I struggled with tape. Ethan and I stole moments together walking through the snowy neighborhood, watching movies in the basement while his siblings slept, standing close in the kitchen while making hot chocolate. We were careful to keep things PG around his family, but the tension between us was building, the awareness of each other constant. On Christmas Eve, the house was chaotic with preparations. Caroline was cooking a feast, Michael was assembling something complicated that Emma had requested, and the boys were engaged in an intense Nerf war that spanned multiple rooms. Come on, Ethan said, grabbing my hand. Let's escape for a bit. He led me out the back door and across the snowy yard to a small structure I hadn't noticed. Before a kind of workshop or studio, this used to be my dad's old office. But when he built the new workshop, this became my space. I come here when I need to think. He unlocked the door and ushered me inside. It was cozy and clearly Ethan swimming medals and ribbons on one wall. A comfortable couch, a desk covered in medical textbooks, photos of friends and family everywhere. But what caught my attention was the wall of books. You have a library, I said, moving closer to examine the titles. Not like yours, but yeah. You inspired me actually. After we started studying together, I started reading more fiction again. I kind of stopped during pre-med, telling myself I didn't have time. He came up behind me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. I missed it. I turned to face him, and suddenly we were very close in the small space. His eyes were dark, intense, and the air between us felt charged. Julian, he said softly, can I ask you something? Anything. What are we doing here? I mean, I know we're dating, but what do you want this to be? I thought about it, about the last few weeks, about how he'd become the best part of every day. I want this to be real, not just a college thing that fizzles out. I want to see where this goes. Me too. He cupped my face in his hands. I'm falling for you, really falling, and it scares me because it's so fast, but it also feels so right. I'm falling for you too. He kissed me then, and it was different from our other kisses, deeper, more urgent. Like he was trying to convey everything he couldn't say with words. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pressing closer, and he made a soft sound that sent shivers down my spine. We ended up on the couch, tangled together, kissing like we'd been holding back for weeks, which we had. His hands were in my hair, mine were under his sweater, feeling the warmth of his skin, the muscles he developed from years of swimming. Wait, he breathed, pulling back slightly. I don't want to rush anything. I want this to be right. I was breathing hard, my lips swollen from kissing. What feels right to you? This, being with you. But maybe not in my dad's old office with my entire family 50 feet away. I laughed, the tension breaking. That's probably smart. He grinned and kissed me again, softer this time. After the holidays, when we're back at school, we can talk about what we both want. Take our time, okay? We stayed in the studio for a while longer, just holding each other, talking about classes next semester and plans for the future. Ethan wanted to specialize in pediatrics, working with kids who were sick. I admitted that I dreamed of publishing a novel someday, but was terrified of rejection. You will, he said with such certainty that I almost believed him. You're too talented not to. When we finally headed back to the house, Caroline was pulling a ham out of the oven, and the boys were setting the table. There you two are, she said with a knowing smile, just in time to help. That night, after a huge dinner and the traditional Christmas Eve movie, everyone gathered around the tree to exchange one present each, the Marsh family tradition. Ethan gave Emma a signed copy of a book by her favorite author. His parents gave each other matching scarves they'd clearly coordinated on. The boys traded video games, Julian, Caroline said, handing me a wrapped package. We know you're not officially family, but we wanted you to feel included. I unwrapped it carefully, touched that they'd thought of me at all. Inside was a beautiful leather journal with my initials embossed on the cover. For your stories, Michael explained. Ethan mentioned you always write in notebooks. Thank you. This is incredibly thoughtful. I felt tears prick at my eyes. We have one more tradition, Emma announced. Everyone has to share something they're grateful for from this year. We went around the circle. Caroline was grateful for her family's health, Michael for his new workshop project, Lucas for making the basketball team, Aiden for discovering he loved to read, Emma for getting the lead in her play. I'm grateful for Julian, Ethan said when it was his turn, for meeting someone who makes me want to be better, who gets me, who makes me laugh, for finding someone I can be completely myself with. Everyone was smiling at us, and I felt my face heat up. I'm grateful for this family, I said, for welcoming me, for making me feel like I belong here, and for Ethan, for everything. Later, as everyone headed to bed, Ethan walked me to my room again. Merry Christmas, Julian. Merry Christmas, Ethan. He kissed me softly, and I thought about how much my life had changed in just a few weeks, how lonely I'd been before, and how full my heart felt now. Chapter 8. The secret moment. Christmas Day was wonderful chaos. Presents were opened with enthusiasm. Caroline made a breakfast spread that could have fed an army, and the day was filled with board games, movie marathons, and enough food to put everyone in a pleasant coma. But the best moment came late that night. Everyone had gone to bed, exhausted from the long day. I was reading in my room when I heard a soft knock. Hey, Ethan whispered, peeking in. Want to do something crazy? How crazy? Come on, bring a coat. We snuck out of the house like teenagers, trying not to laugh as we avoided the creaky floorboards. Outside, the world was silent and beautiful, covered in fresh snow that sparkled under the moonlight. Where are we going? I asked as we trudged through the snow. You'll see. He led me through the neighborhood to a small park with a frozen pond. The streetlights cast a golden glow over everything, and it looked like something from a movie. I used to come here as a kid, Ethan said, whenever I needed to think or just wanted to be alone. It's even more beautiful in winter. We stood at the edge of the pond, our breath forming clouds in the cold air. The world felt far away, like we were the only two people who existed. I wanted to give you your present alone, Ethan said, pulling a small wrapped box from his pocket. Without my family watching and Emma making commentary. You didn't have to get me anything. The book from our date was more than enough. I wanted to open it. Inside the box was a silver bookmark, engraved with a quote. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Dumbledore, I said, recognizing it immediately. Ethan, this is perfect. I figured you needed something to mark your place in all those books. And I liked the quote. It reminded me of you always living in stories, but learning to live in real life too. I threw my arms around him, hugging him tightly. Thank you. I love it. I stopped, the words catching in my throat. He pulled back slightly, looking at me with wide eyes. You love this? I love this, us. I chickened out, not quite ready to say the bigger words yet. But something in his expression told me he understood what I'd almost said. I love us too, he said softly. He kissed me there in the moonlight, with snow falling gently around us. And it was like something out of one of the romance novels I secretly read. But this was better because it was real, because it was us. When we pulled apart, we were both grinning. You know what I just realized? Ethan said. What? That moment in the title. He kissed me in the dark, when no one was watching. This is it. Right here. He looked around at the empty park, the dark sky. No one watching, just us. Is that from something? No, it's just, I've been thinking about this moment for weeks. About getting to kiss you without worrying about who might see, without any pressure. Just us being us. I like just us. Me too. We stayed out there for a while longer, talking and kissing and just being together. Eventually, the cold drove us back to the house where we snuck in just as quietly as we'd left. At my bedroom door, Ethan kissed me one more time. Sweet dreams, Julian, sweet dreams. I fell asleep that night thinking that this was the best Christmas I'd ever had. And it was all because of him. Chapter 9. New Year's Eve week between Christmas and New Year's passed too quickly. Ethan and I fell into a comfortable rhythm helping his mom with cooking, playing games with his siblings, taking long walks through the snowy neighborhood. We stole kisses in quiet corners, held hands under the dinner table, and stayed up late talking about everything and nothing. His family treated me like I'd always been there. Caroline asked my opinion on recipes. Michael showed me his latest furniture project. Emma dragged me shopping, and the boys included me in their video game tournaments. I never felt so welcomed, so accepted. But underlying all the happiness was the knowledge that we'd have to go back to school soon. Back to reality. I tried not to think about it, but as New Year's Eve approached, I couldn't help but worry. What if this magic couldn't survive outside his family home? What if we'd built something that only worked in this bubble? On New Year's Eve, the Marsh family threw a party. Neighbors and friends filled the house, and I found myself meeting what felt like the entire town. Everyone was friendly and curious about Ethan's friend from college, though I suspected most of them knew we were more than friends. "Your boyfriend is charming, everyone," Emma said, appearing at my elbow with 2 cups of punch. "He's good at that. I mean you, dummy. You're Ethan's boyfriend, and everyone loves you." Mrs. Patterson from next door asked if you were single because her nephew is gay, and she wants to set him up with someone nice. I told her you were very taken. "Thanks for that," I said, amused. "Seriously though, I'm glad Ethan found you. He's different with you, lighter, happier. Like he doesn't have to be perfect all the time." Before I could respond, Ethan appeared, looking slightly frazzled. I just spent 20 minutes explaining to Coach Williams why I'm not coming back to swim team next semester. He's not happy. "You're quitting swimming?" This was news to me. Not quitting, just taking a break. I need to focus on my pre-med courses, and I want to have more free time for other things. He looked at me meaningfully. "For people who are important to me, don't quit swimming because of me," I said, worried. "I'm not. I'm doing it because I want to. Swimming has been my whole identity for so long, and I'm ready to figure out who I am without it. Besides," he smiled, "I'll have more time to spend in libraries." As midnight approached, everyone gathered in the living room for the countdown. Ethan and I stood together near the back, his arm around my waist. 10, 9, 8. "I have a good feeling about this year," Ethan said in my ear. 7, 6, 5, me too. 4, 3, 2, 1. "Happy New Year." The room erupted in cheers and hugs and kisses. Ethan turned to me, and in front of his entire family and half the neighborhood, he kissed me. It wasn't a quick peck, it was a real kiss, claiming me, showing everyone exactly what I meant to him. When we pulled apart, Emma was crying happy tears, Caroline was beaming, and Michael gave us a thumbs up. "Happy New Year, Julian," Ethan said. "Happy New Year." Later, after the party had wound down and guests had left, I found myself alone in the kitchen with Caroline. She was washing dishes, and I automatically started drying them. "Thank you for having me," I said. "These have been the best 2 weeks of my life. You're welcome here anytime." "I mean that." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Ethan is my oldest, and I've watched him put so much pressure on himself his whole life, always trying to be the perfect student, the perfect athlete, the perfect son. But with you, he's just Ethan. Happy, relaxed Ethan. That's a gift, Julian." "He does the same for me," I admitted. "I've spent most of my life feeling like I don't quite fit anywhere. But with him, with all of you, I feel like I belong." She hugged me, and I hugged her back, grateful for this woman who'd welcomed me so completely. "Take care of each other," she said. "We will." Chapter 10. Back to real returning to campus felt surreal. The buildings looked the same, the students rushing to classes were familiar, but everything felt different now. I wasn't the lonely literature major hiding in the library anymore. I had Ethan. I had a relationship, a boyfriend, something real and wonderful. But with that came new anxieties. What if people are weird about it? I asked Sarah as I unpacked my things. "I mean, Ethan is Ethan. Everyone knows him. And I'm amazing. Brilliant. Lucky to have snagged the hottest guy on campus?" Sarah supplied. "Seriously, Julian, stop freaking out. Anyone who has a problem with you two can fight me." The first few days back were an adjustment. Ethan and I figured out how to be together in public, holding hands walking to class, sitting together at lunch, studying at our library corner that now felt like our spot. Most people were either indifferent or supportive. The swim team guys were cool about it, ribbing Ethan good-naturedly. My literature classmates were excited for me, but there were uncomfortable moments too. A guy in my poetry class made a comment about not expecting me to be that type. Someone wrote something crude on the bathroom wall in the library. A group of girls who'd been hoping to date Ethan gave me dirty looks in the dining hall. "Ignore them," Ethan said when I told him. They don't matter. Easy for you to say. You're used to attention. Hey, he stopped walking and turned to face me. If anyone gives you actual trouble, you tell me. I won't let anyone make you feel bad about us. But it wasn't just external pressure. We were also figuring out how to be together while managing classes, homework, and responsibilities. Ethan was busy with his pre-med courses, and I had a heavy literature load. We went from spending every day together at his parents' house to sometimes only seeing each other for an hour or two. I miss you, I said one night on the phone. We'd both been too busy to meet up, and I hated it. I miss you too. This is harder than I thought it would be. Are we okay? We're okay, he said firmly. We're just adjusting. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Nothing. Why? Let's go somewhere. Just the two of us. Like a real date. Not just grabbing food between classes. Where? There's a bed and breakfast about an hour from here. Very romantic, private. What do you think? My heart raced. A weekend away together meant, well, it meant potentially taking things to the next level. I think that sounds perfect. Chapter 11. The weekend away at Pine Grove and was exactly what Ethan had promised. Romantic, secluded, and beautiful. Our room had a fireplace, a huge comfortable bed, and windows that looked out over snow-covered trees. This is incredible, I said, setting my bag down. I wanted somewhere special. Somewhere it could just be us. No interruptions, no pressure. Ethan came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Is this okay? It's perfect. We spent the afternoon exploring the small town nearby, having lunch at a quiet cafe, walking through an art gallery. It felt like we were the only two people in the world, and the tension between us built with each passing hour. That evening, we had dinner in the inn's restaurant, a cozy room with candlelight and soft music. Ethan looked beautiful in the flickering light, and I couldn't stop staring at him. What are you thinking about? He asked, catching me watching him. How lucky I am. How this doesn't feel real sometimes. Is real. He reached across the table and took my hand. Julian, I need to tell you something. My stomach flipped. Okay, I love you. I'm in love with you. He said it simply, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I've been wanting to say it for weeks, but I was scared it was too soon or too much. But I can't keep it in anymore. I love you. Tears pricked at my eyes. I love you too. God, I love you so much it scares me. His smile was radiant. Yeah? Yeah. We barely made it through dessert before heading back to our room. The moment the door closed behind us, we were kissing, urgent and desperate. We stumbled toward the bed, shedding jackets and shoes, and I felt like every nerve in my body was on fire. Wait, Ethan said, breathless. I want to make sure you're ready for this. We don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. I'm ready. I want this. I want you. I've never, he admitted. I mean, I've done some things, but not everything. Not this. Me neither. We'll figure it out together. What happened next was awkward and wonderful and perfect. We fumbled with buttons and laughed at our nervous excitement. We learned each other's bodies, what made the other gasp and moan. We were careful and tender with each other, checking in constantly, making sure every touch was wanted. Afterward, we lay tangled together under the blankets, the fireplace casting dancing shadows on the walls. That was, Ethan trailed off. Yeah. He laughed and kissed my shoulder. I love you, Julian Hayes. I love you, Ethan Marsh. We stayed at the inn all weekend, barely leaving the room. We talked about our fears and hopes, about what we wanted our future to look like, about the possibility of moving in together next year. We made love again, slower this time, more confident. We ordered room service and ate breakfast in bed. We existed in our own perfect bubble, but Sunday evening came too soon, and we had to drive back to campus. I don't want this weekend to end, I said as we pulled into the parking lot. It doesn't have to end. This is just the beginning. Ethan squeezed my hand. We have the rest of the semester, and then summer, and then senior year. We have time, Julian. Promise? I promise. I'm not going anywhere. Chapter 12. Spring semester. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Ethan and I settled into a rhythm as a couple, studying together, eating meals together, spending most nights at one or the other's dorm room. My roommate Sarah became friends with Ethan's roommate Marcus, and our social circles merged in unexpected ways. I started showing my writing to more people. Encouraged by Ethan's constant support, I submitted a short story to the campus literary magazine and was shocked when they accepted it. Seeing my words in print for the first time was surreal, made better by Ethan's proud smile. See? I told you that you were talented, he said, kissing me as we looked at my published story. You're biased, maybe, but I'm also right. Ethan threw himself into his pre-med courses with renewed focus. Without swimming taking up so much time, his grades improved even more. And he started volunteering at the children's hospital. Watching him interact with sick kids, seeing how gentle and patient he was, made me fall even more in love with him. We had our first real fight in March, something stupid about me feeling neglected. When Ethan spent an entire weekend studying for the MCAT, I'd said something passive-aggressive. He'd snapped back, and suddenly we were arguing about everything from dirty dishes to whether we spent enough quality time together. Maybe we need space, I'd said in the heat of the moment, and the look of hurt on Ethan's face made me immediately regret it. You really want space? Or are you just pushing me away because you're scared? He asked quietly, and that was the thing about Ethan he always saw through my defenses. I'm scared. I admitted. I'm scared that this is too good to last. That something will go wrong. That you'll realize you can do better than me, Julian. He pulled me close. There is no one better than you. You're it from me, but I need you to trust that. Trust us. We worked through it, learning how to communicate better, how to fight fair, how to give each other space without pulling away completely. Every obstacle we overcame made us stronger. In April, Ethan's family came to visit for Parents' Weekend. Having Caroline and Michael on campus felt like having my own parents there. They took us out for dinner, came to my literary reading where I presented my published story, and treated me like I was already part of the family. Have you thought about what you're doing this summer? Caroline asked over dinner. Working at the campus bookstore, probably. Saving money for next year. Why don't you come stay with us? She suggested. You could work at the bookstore in our town, and you'd have a free place to live. Plus, she smiled, you and Ethan wouldn't have to be apart all summer. I looked at Ethan, who was grinning. I was going to ask you myself, but Mom beat me to it. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. You're not imposing, Michael said firmly. You're family now, Julian. Our home is your home. I felt tears sting my eyes. Okay, yes, thank you. Under the table, Ethan squeezed my hand and I squeezed back. Chapter 13. Summer together this summer was perfect in ways I hadn't imagined possible. Living with Ethan and his family, I got to experience everyday life with them. Lazy Sunday morning pancake breakfast. Movie nights where we all crammed onto the couch, helping Caroline in her garden. Learning woodworking from Michael. Ethan and I had the studio as our private space. We'd go there after work. He'd gotten a job at the hospital as an orderly, and I was working at the local bookstore, and just be together. Sometimes we'd talk for hours. Sometimes we'd make out like teenagers. Sometimes we'd just exist in comfortable silence while we each did our own thing. I could get used to this, I said one evening as we lay on the studio couch, my head on his chest. Good, because I'm thinking long-term here, Julian. Like, beyond college long-term. My heart skipped. Yeah. I've been looking at med schools, and I'm thinking I want to stay close to here. There's a great program about 2 hours away, and I was thinking, maybe you'd want to move with me. Get an apartment together. You want to live together. I want to build a life with you. He sat up, turning to face me. I know we're young, and maybe this is crazy, but I can't imagine my future without you in it. I love you, Julian. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to come home to you after long shifts at the hospital. I want to read your novels before anyone else gets to see them. I want everything with you. I want that too, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. I want all of that. He kissed me, deep and slow and full of promise. So, we're doing this. We're planning a future together. We're doing this. That summer, we started making concrete plans. We looked at apartments online, budgeted our finances, talked about what life would look like when he was in med school, and I was working on my writing. It was terrifying and exciting in equal measure. I also got closer to Emma, who was preparing for her senior year of high school. She confided in me about her own confusion about her sexuality, and I tried to help her navigate those feelings the way I wish someone had helped me. How did you know you were gay? She asked one afternoon while we were supposed to be weeding the garden. I always kind of knew, I said, even before I had the words for it. I just knew I was different, that I didn't feel about girls the way other boys seemed to. I think I might be bi, she said quietly. I like boys, but there's this girl at school, and when I'm around her, I feel the same way I felt about my last boyfriend. Maybe more. That's okay. However you feel is valid. Does it get easier? Being different. I thought about it. It gets easier when you find people who accept you for who you are. Like your family accepted me. Like Ethan loves me for exactly who I am. You're lucky, Emma. You have a family that will support you no matter what. So do you, she said, smiling. You're part of this family now. Chapter 14. Senior year. Turning to campus for senior year felt different. Ethan and I got an off-campus apartment together, a tiny one-bedroom that we furnished with secondhand finds and enthusiasm. It was cramped, and the heating was terrible, but it was ours. Welcome home, Ethan said, carrying me over the threshold on move-in day. You're such a dork, I laughed. But I loved it. We hosted our first dinner party that fall. Sarah, Marcus, a few of Ethan's friends from the hospital where he volunteered, and some of my classmates from the English department. Watching our worlds blend together, seeing Ethan laugh with my friends and me joke with his, felt like a kind of magic. I was working on my senior thesis, a collection of short stories, and Ethan was preparing for med school applications. We had a routine: coffee together in the morning, classes during the day, dinner together in the evening, and then we'd work at the kitchen table, him on his applications and me on my writing. Our feet tangled under the table. Read me what you're working on, Ethan would say during breaks, and I'd read him sections of my stories. He was always my first reader, my most honest critic, and my biggest cheerleader. In November, we went back to his parents' house for Thanksgiving. It felt like coming home. Emma had come out as bisexual to her family. They'd been wonderfully supportive. Lucas had gotten a girlfriend, and Aiden was now obsessed with writing his own fantasy novel. You inspired him, Caroline told me as Aiden peppered me with questions about world building and character development. The week of finals, Ethan got his first med school acceptance letter. He'd gotten into his first choice, the program, to hours from his hometown. He was so happy he cried, and I held him, proud and excited and maybe a tiny bit scared about what came next. You got this, I told him. You're going to be an amazing doctor. Only if you're there with me. I'm not going anywhere. I defended my thesis in April, a nerve-wracking presentation where I had to discuss my creative process and artistic vision with a panel of professors. Ethan sat in the back row, giving me encouraging smiles whenever I looked at him. I passed with honors, and that night, Ethan took me out for a celebration dinner. I'm so proud of you, he said, raising his glass. To Julian Hayes, soon-to-be graduate and published author. I'm not published yet. You will be. I know it. At graduation, both our families were there. My mom had tears in her eyes as I walked across the stage, and the Marshes cheered so loudly that people turned to look. Afterward, we all went out for dinner, and I looked around the table at my mom talking to Caroline, at Ethan's dad showing my mom photos on his phone, at Emma and the boys arguing about something silly, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. You okay? Ethan asked, noticing my expression. Yeah, just happy. Really, really happy. Me too. He kissed me softly, not caring who was watching. Ready for the next chapter? With you, always. The apartment Ethan and I shared near his medical school was bigger than our college place, but still cozy. My office, really just a converted second bedroom, was covered in post-it notes and manuscript pages. Ethan's study space was in the corner of our bedroom. Always buried under medical textbooks and flashcards, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Ethan was in his third year of med school, doing his clinical rotations at the Children's Hospital. I was working part-time at a local bookstore and had finally found a literary agent for my novel. We were both exhausted most of the time, but we were happy. Julian, come look at this, Ethan called from the living room. I found him staring at his laptop, his expression a mix of shock and joy. What is it? Remember that pediatric fellowship program I applied to? The super competitive one? The one you said was a long shot. I got it. He looked up at me, eyes shining. I got the fellowship. Julian, this is everything I've been working toward. I threw my arms around him. I'm so proud of you. This is amazing. We celebrated that night with cheap wine and takeout from our favorite Thai place, talking about what this meant for the future. The fellowship would start after he finished med school, which meant we had another year of this life before things changed again. Speaking of the future, Ethan said, suddenly nervous. He got up and disappeared into the bedroom, returning with a small box. My heart stopped. Julian Hayes, he said, getting down on one knee. 3 years ago, you stumbled into the library and changed my life. You've been my partner, my best friend, and the love of my life. I can't imagine doing any of this without you. Will you marry me? Yes, I said, tears streaming down my face. Yes, absolutely yes. The ring was simple and perfect, a silver band with a small inscription inside, better to have. Loved, Tennyson, I said, recognizing the reference to the poem I'd read him that first week we met. I figure we have the answer now, Ethan said, pulling me close. It's definitely better to have loved. Loving you is the best thing I've ever done. That night, lying in bed with my fiancé, I thought about how much my life had changed since that Tuesday night in December, when Ethan Marsh sat down across from me in the library. I thought about all the kisses in the dark, the moments when no one was watching, the building of something real and lasting. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. How lucky I am. How he kissed me in the dark when no one was watching, and it changed everything. Best decision I ever made. Second best, I corrected. The best was asking me to marry you. He laughed and kissed me, and I tasted our future and that kiss, a lifetime of moments just like this, of building a life together, of loving and being loved in return. Outside, the world kept turning, but in our little apartment, in our little corner of the universe, everything was exactly as it should be.